Hello, my name is Miles Corwin. I've lived in Altadena since 1995. I started out as a crime reporter for the Los Angeles Times. I ended up writing 3 nonfiction books, 2 of them about crime, 1 about an inner city high school. I then segued into fiction, and I've written 3 crime novels. When I was covering crime for the Los Angeles Times in the 1990s, the city was beset by a murder epidemic. The epicenter was South Los Angeles, where there were more than 400 murders a year. I was so overwhelmed with the volume of homicide that I took a leave of absence from my job and wrote a book about a quiet genocide that was taking place south of the Santa Monica Freeway. I spent a summer trailing homicide detectives to crime scenes, watching them tell families a loved one had died, attending autopsies, sitting in on suspect interviews. My only respite from the ever-present anguish was at the end of the day, or often early the next morning, after spending all nights with the detectives, when I would exit the Pasadena freeway, cut over to Hill, and head up to Altadena. My days were spent in impoverished neighborhoods where the murders mounted, and many of the streets were without a single tree or patch of grass. So devoid of vegetation and color, they looked like black and white photographic negatives. When I finally reached Altadena, however, my mood immediately was lifted by the multicolored landscapes I passed, the lavender jacaranda blossoms, purple Mexican sage, magenta bougainvillea, and the pastel array of roses that graced so many front lawns. Sometimes, as I traversed the side streets, I'd get out of my car and stretch. My back usually ached from standing on the sidewalk at homicide scenes for many hours. And I'd see the San Gabriel Mountains bathed in brilliant sunlight. Often the scent of orange blossoms or jasmine would waft by. I was often so distraught after talking with the heartbroken families of murder victims that I wasn't ready to return home because I needed to decompress. At these times, I'd stop at the Altadena Library, wander into the garden in front, relax on a bench for an hour or two, surrounded by the lush landscaping, and appreciate the zen quietude of the little hideaway. Sometimes I'd check out a book. Often I'd doze. When I'd wake, I'd return home, go over my notes, and was ready for another day of trauma and tragedy. In the years since then, whenever I was away from home researching stories or books, wherever I traveled, however stressful, I was revivified when I spotted the San Gabriel Mountains in the distance because I knew I would soon be home in Altadena, which has always been a restorative refuge for me.